Welcome. I'm Colleen Tauke, and I'm the sewing specialist at Fons & Porter. In this video tutorial, we're going to work with a pattern called All Inked Up. For the pattern or purchase of this pattern, visit our website. We are going to begin with 10-inch squares of an assorted, wonderful bunch of bright fabrics, and we're using a white tone-on-tone fabric as the graphic line that brings it all together. Okay, we're going to take those 10-inch squares, and you'll notice in the pattern that we're going to use 4 of them, and what we would normally consider to be a 9-patch, or a 4-patch, I'm sorry. And we would simply create blocks that look like this. And since most of us have created, or maybe this is your first quilt project, that'd be a great way to start. You would simply join blocks with a 1/4-inch seam, like this, and you would stitch a 1/4-inch seam here and here, which would then create 2 rows, and you'll join the rows together to come up with a 4-patch block. Now, the 4-patch is a really easy block to create, something like this. And you'll notice these are really big blocks, which means your quilt will be finished in no time. Okay, so we're going to take this 4-patch block then, and we're going to cut it apart. You've seen all those great graphic lines that go through the blocks, and we simply come in and measure down 5 inches from the top of your block all the way across. We're going to make a cut. I'm going to slide my mat so that I'm cutting in a safe direction, and we're going to line up the 5-inch line on our ruler with the top of the block, and then with one simple motion we should be able to slice all the way across like that. Simple. Make a nice simple cut. We're going to split that apart, and then we're going to add first of our bars of white here, and simply lay one piece on top of the other, 1/4-inch seam here. When you take it to the ironing board, which between each of the stitching lines you should take it to the ironing board, press the seam and open it, and press the seam allowances toward the white. There won't be any resistance because there isn't a seam here, but the seam in the back the fabric will want to go towards the white. And you'll do the same thing again along the top. Add that small top piece, and you'll have a block now that looks like this. And you can see on the back, the seam allowances are pressed towards the center. Now, since this is just a short expanse, you'll want to make sure that your seam allowances here match up and jump across, because you want the color to look like it's just been spliced and not shifted. So make sure that your pieces are cut accurately, they fit end to end, and then that this lines up. It's a great way to practice that accurate 1/4-inch seam allowance. Okay, now, if you look at our blocks, there's one more cut you have to make, and that is to go straight down along here. And we're going to rotate that again so that I can cut in a safe manner. And you're going to make a 5-inch cut again along this side of the block. Now, once you get really good at these, you might go through and make 4 or 5 blocks and stack them up. But it depends on how comfortable you are cutting through, because sometimes when we cut multiple blocks, we can make multiple mistakes really quickly. But just keep our widths about us, the 5-inch mark. We've spliced here. We're going to insert the next white strip, and it's just a little bit longer, so keep track of your cutting, because of the 2 white strips are just a little bit different in length. You might want to use a Post-it note or some kind of a marking so that you can remember which ones are which, give in the right place. Again, you're going to add these here and here. Now this time when you add, you're going to put your 1/4-inch seam here, and again, we pressed towards the white the first time. We're going to do the same thing again. So you're going to press your seam allowance to the center, and then you're going to do the same thing on the far side. I'm going to stitch this one just because I want to show you how to make sure that the seams match up. becomes more evident if you can see it. So we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. If you are not sure if your 1/4 inch seam is really accurate, one tip you can do is to take an index card, a simple recipe card. The lines on a recipe card are exactly 1/4 inch apart, and put that under the presser foot. Drop the needle into one of the lines, and then make sure that what you're using as your 1/4 inch spot that you let your eyes rest on when you're stitching is an accurate 1/4 inch. It's always good for us to go back and just double check our accuracy as we go along. Some of our patterns, accuracy is, close counts, but when we're working with a lot of really strong graphic lines like this, you might want to make sure it's really good and accurate. Okay, now I would normally go and press this flat, set the seam, then come in and press the seam allowance out. But just for time here, we're going to just quickly use a finger press and get it to lay flat. Now, the idea is that I want this line to be perfectly lined up so it looks continuous through. So when I lay this on top, you'll notice that there's a little way for you to keep that accurate. You notice that these seam allowances lay right on top, like a channel, across the block. So if those are matched up there, then they're going to be continuous. You can feel that with your fingernail all the way across. Put 2 pins in there, hold it in place, seam, and when you open up, you're going to have a perfect intersection of these lines that will weave all the way through your quilt. Now, you go through and make 20 blocks like this to complete the quilt. It's 4 across and 5 down. Now, when you look at it, you'll notice that not all the blocks, this would be the top of the block that you would create, but not all the lines are in the top left-hand corner. Sometimes they're rotated to create this overall effect. And so you're going to want to make sure that when you get done laying out your quilt, before you put the rows together and join rows, that you have them all intersecting properly. If you would like more on the technique of joining and we call it row alignment, you can visit our website, and on there you'll find what we call Sew Easy lessons. And it'll be a more in-depth approach to how to align your rows throughout your quilt. Thanks for joining us. For more of our video tutorials, visit our website.